Hello, everybody, and welcome to TableTakes. Today is March 12th, and I hope you are all having a fabulous cool down. Of course, we have survived Jen's showcase. Derek, how are you feeling after the very hectic last week?
I own a house.
Woo!
A fridge and a
FinCon is sparing no expenses. They're giving
clearly.
people houses at the end of wow.
Yeah, we shipped all of you some games. Gen Con shipped me a house. It's a little flat pack, but we'll get there.
Wow.
I'm just gonna make a house out of my board games. That's what Phil and I have decided. Buy enough games, construct a house.
Certainly viable. Yep.
You can do like an Earth ship.
Yeah, so we survived the weekend. We had to relocate Gen Con Stream HQ International Headquarters bunker to this house. So that meant that Marcus had to come over. But that was a great excuse to then go get Korean corn dogs and prove that I was not the only person who had eaten those and had their life changed.
Wait, but what about our corn dogs? We didn't get any corn dogs.
We actually did have one or two left over that the three of you neglected to come and eat. So
I didn't know.
You wanted me to risk the Pamela Anderson to come get a cold corn dog?
We could have left it next to the barbed wire fence for you to come pick up. We could have made
you imagine me like skulking in your yard to get a corn dog.
Like we just put a corn dog on a windowsill and we're like, oh, that's nice. We'll have it once it cools. And we turn around and we turn back. Oh, Isabella.
It's just under a box with a stick holding it up.
Yep.
That's okay. I went to my local Mochi Nut, which also sells corn dogs. And they were out. They said no. There was a line that was out the door. It was so popular. And so I don't know what I got to do. Apparently, I got to go to Derek's house in the middle of the night and brave these traps.
If you could wait, I don't know, maybe like 10 days, 11 days or so, and come do it when I don't live here anymore, that would be a lot more comfortable for me.
I'm not breaking into an empty house first.
Anyway, my wife was a great trooper because ours was apparently packed with a huge line too. But she got in before they were completely sold out. But like they didn't have any of the cheddar ones. They didn't have the volcano spicy one. So they're still.
I'm telling y'all, Mochi Nut is the truth. It is so good. The donuts slap. The corn dogs salap. It's very the Koreans. They figured it out, y'all. They figured out food. They figured out music. They figured out fashion. They figured out movies. They figured out soap operas, and they figured out corn dogs and fried chicken and donuts. And it's just, I'm telling y'all, South Korea, you've been putting in that work.
Is this place super new then? Is that why everyone's?
Yeah. Oh, the mochi donuts, yeah, they're fairly they're still going even during the pepperoni pizza going on right now. So
yeah, 2 months ago I think they opened 2 or 3 months ago.
There's a handful of locations around the country, I think.
Okay, because I was gonna make a pilgrimage this weekend, but if that's the case,
go early.
Go early, yeah, it's good.
Yeah. I mean, Emma, what have you, like, now that we got you interested in all the goodness that is Korean food, what have you been doing lately?
Mostly just work and Loop Hero. I've stumbled upon the loopiness, and it is weird and fun and kind of relaxing. So I don't know if y'all have heard about this game, but no one?
The roguelike,
right? I have. I got it. I have it. A friend of mine sent it over to me, and so I have to do it. I feel like I would rage quit because I have a horrible habit of doing that.
No,
because it's a roguelike, right?
No, but no, you can actually fail every single level and still get stuff. So if you leave when you're at camp, because you do a loop and you can you come back to camp every loop, you basically just walk, your pixels are walking around in this weird circle. If you leave it at camp, you keep all your stuff. If you leave in the middle of a loop, you're just like, I'm out. Then you keep 60% of your stuff. And if you die partway through the loop, you keep 30% of your stuff. So you could literally just die every single time and still have stuff to build up and progress the game. So it's really unpunishing in a way. And you can also just play it super safe and be like, I'm just gonna go back to camp now. So it's kind of chill in a way. And it's also just kind of unknowable without what all the cards do, and it's a little complex but doesn't super matter, so you can just put the tiles all over the board and just YOLO it. And I don't know, it's just very hard to explain because a lot of roguelike games are very specific and very punishing, and you have to do it exactly right, you have to figure it out. This one, you can figure it out, and that's kind of fun, but also just doing whatever is kind of weird and fun too. So
I think that was the key to Hades being a lot of fun, is that like it was thrilling when you actually got through and did it right. But if you kind of screwed up, you still had some fun and made a little bit of progress.
Yeah, exactly. And you get more story that way.
All the stories. Speaking of which, now that it is, we are starting to see the sun in Seattle. Can you guys believe that? Isabella, what have you been doing now that the sun has arisen in the city?
I've been doing something that I did not realize how dangerous it actually really was. I started spring cleaning in my house, which is something that I do every single year, which is one of my favorite things to do. I don't know, I Marie Kondo this place, and it makes me feel so cleansed. And so we're refreshing all the linens, dusting everything. And I was doing a deep clean on my kitchen when I threw my back out Thursday night.
Oh no.
And so I've been laying down. I've been prone. I'm sorry, not Thursday night, Wednesday night. And so I'm not going to be moving too much because I have to line my back up perfectly for it to not feel real bad. So yeah, I'm dying. I'm aging rapidly. I'm 1 foot in the grave. I can see the end of my life coming closer to me.
Well, I'm flattered that when your life passed before your eyes, you decided to grace us with more of your time.
Yes.
As you rapidly.
You need to get one of those foam rollers. Do you have one of those where you kind of just torture yourself?
I do. I've been laying down on a heating pad. I just like, as soon as it happened, my spine went like, and then I just like laid down, right? And I couldn't stand. So I was just laying down on the kitchen floor, begging, having a conversation with my cat, basically about being like, if I die here, please, don't start on my eyes. Can you start on my, when you eat me eventually?
Yeah.
Please start on the soft tissue of my tongue. So that was really, I just don't want her to eat my eyes. That's my one fear. So
like normally people would be like, could you start with my toes or something far away so they don't have to see it? But like, I feel like the tongue is gonna hurt more than the eyes.
I know.
Also, you'd presumably be dead, right? Or is it as you're dying?
I would be presumably passing away.
Okay.
I don't want her to eat it's my eyelids. I'm terrified of her eating the soft tissue of my eyelids. Like, and then people discovering my corpse. And I'm like, I just don't want that. It's a thing.
There's a part of me as a GM where I love it when players are, when anybody's like, I have this one really weird little fear, and I'm like, oh man, I want to run a game there where there's like the eyelid eater.
So I'm trying to get better as soon as I possibly can by taking drugs. Not bad drugs, legal drugs. Oh God. Okay. Anyway, because tonight I'm interviewing Mark Bernardin, who is a writer for Marvel and Us Weekly and a whole bunch of other things. And he is a writer for this Hulu show called Castle Rock, which was a Stephen King adaptation. And then he's also writing on this other show that's the Masters of the Universe reboot, which I'm very excited about. And we're going to get together tonight and we're going to talk about Blade, which I'm so excited for. And that's happening at the Langston Facebook page. Anybody can watch us talk about that movie. I'm very excited about that. And also this weekend, There are a couple of marches happening around the Pacific Northwest and the Seattle area. And I think they're happening nationwide. Actually, there's marches happening all over the place for Asian solidarity against racism. And if you guys don't know, this is my annual, this is honestly the only time this whole entire show that I have something to talk about. So I'm just gonna get this out of the way. So I'm gonna get on my soapbox really quickly. But there's been a rapid rise in discrimination and hatred against Asian Americans in this country. And here in Seattle alone, the hate crimes against Asian people has risen over 400%, which is a ridiculously high number. We have a very large, active, amazing, diverse group of Asian people in Seattle. And the hatred that they've been facing has been unprecedented, unreasonable, grotesque, horrific, especially because of the fact that it's been targeting a significant amount of very vulnerable people, like elderly people. And if I saw anybody assault a nana or an auntie or a grandpa, I would skyrocket out of my skin and explode into light and immediately eviscerate that person into the sun. Like the idea of hurting, the idea of hurting an elderly person who's vulnerable like that is so disgusting to me. Anyway, so there's a couple of marches going on around the country and specifically here in Seattle, and I actively encourage anybody to engage. If you can march, and if you can't march, there's plenty of places that also accept donations to help for communities, for people that need to, there's still like a ton of people who need medical care. There's a ton of surveillance. There's a ton of groups that are doing like night watches and things like that. And then there's also Asian American groups that are working to help people understand about why this is an issue and educate people on Asian American hate and issue that we've never really dealt with, and it's kind of come to a head due to the horrible last administration.
But I mean, like that's a good point, though, is even though we had a presidential election, the problem obviously did not go away. Like that is not the solution. That is one of many things that we need to do to improve things. But everyone's opinion didn't change just because whoever is in the Oval Office changed.
Exactly. And that, there's a very clear connection between the rhetoric of the last administration and what's in the violence now. Not saying that it wouldn't have happened had we not had that before, because like I said before, we have a very long history of we have not dealt with our racism in this country. So that happened, and that's happening this weekend. And I would encourage people support how you can, because it's disgusting and it's vile, and we need to end this like yesterday. So yeah, that's it. That's all I did. And then I watched Meghan and Harry get interviewed by Oprah. And it was
my heart.
Tresbon. It was great. So that's it. Oprah's the greatest that ever was. She's the GOAT. So yeah, that's it.
Man, you guys all have excited. I just played with my Legos this week, and today I'm trying to keep my guts in for the past 2 days. Don't know what I ate, but now I'm on liquids because any solids just go. I know, TMI. Hi, let's. Sorry, yes. I just realized I said too much. It's okay. We'll just move on. You know what? What we were saying. Did you guys remember what happened last week, Derek? There might have been
memory. It all kind of blurred together.
Yeah, springing out in your memories. Anything springing out in your memories about last weekend? Now that we.
Oh, you mean like maybe a showcase of new games blossoming for a new season of entertainment, perhaps? Yes. So last weekend was our first spring showcase. If anybody missed it, there were 2 full days of streams all about games that have just been released, games that are about to be released, some game announcements. All 3 of you were involved with various streams over the course of the weekend. So a lot of news came out of that. Monster Hunter, the board game, the Kickstarter date was announced for that. Steamforge talked about how they're doing a giveaway for one of the pledge tiers, I believe. They have details for that on their page. Pandasaurus, and actually, Emma, you I think were in that stream. Do you want to talk about some of the stuff that they
the Pandasaurus
announced?
games? Yeah. The Pandasaurus part was fabulous. They talked about a lot of games that they'd already announced, and they announced 2 new games that they're localizing from French. The Loop and Wild Space. Wild Space is like a space animals game where you're trying to card management, hand management, really cool, just really amazing different art with these animal creatures, a good balance of cute and sophisticated, I think I'd say. And then the Loop, time travel cooperative. You got this cool dice tower in the middle, so it's just really cool to be there as they revealed to the world that they have these new games coming in the fall, I believe it was.
And then Haba talked about like 2 new games for their key line. Paizo released a one-shot for Sundering Waves, I think was the name of the adventure. They played that on stream. And there was that had a very climactic fight where the giant animated skeleton monster of their former pirate captain almost killed them all horribly. I think like the fighter was like killed and brought back like 3 times or something like that.
Wow.
It was quite the entertaining stream. Renegade announced details about a new Clank in Space expansion or spinoff. They didn't have a lot of details to go into because I think they want to announce some stuff later, but it's called Pulse Arcade. It had a very almost like very arcadey vibe to it. So it's unclear exactly what they're going to do, but I think they've been having fun teasing what that full details are going to be, apparently. Renegade also had at least 2 Kids on Brooms games. One of them was like a board game adventure where you're kind of going around and solving mysteries and puzzles and stuff like that. Emma, you loved the deck box. The high point for you.
Asmodee, yeah. They had all sorts of really cool games that JV and I got to show off, but this deck box is magnetic, has the orange in there, holds an entire commander deck with a bajillion tokens, which is important because all my decks have many, many tokens because tokens are great. The whole thing comes off, snaps on the back. This is like 60% of the stream was just me showing off all the different, just the toy factor of it. Derek said before this, like, oh, you're probably just going to sit there and play with it. But the whole thing turns sideways and then you have your deck held in there. So yeah, I'm just very happy with how fun this is. And a fun texture too. Very sturdy.
But you missed a very important news. The baby Guinevere. That's what you should mainly focus on. I'm not biased because I have a billion plushes. Not biased at all.
We hadn't missed it. I was just saving it for last.
Oh.
So why don't you run into the full spiel then, Bonsai? What are you excited about?
It's how like last Gen Con, we had the larger plush version. I actually have her. I should have ran and got it beforehand. But now he did a little mini one. It's like about 8 inches if I remember. Limited quantity. So and it's only $25. So hey.
So if you missed your chance before, grab one now before it's all gone.
And I do want to give one last shout out to the showcase. My favorite stream of the entire weekend was the Monstrosity live play. Where a bunch of people. It was absolutely hilarious. I was laughing along and drawing the pictures, and just such an amazing crew of people. So if you go back and look at one thing, that would be my suggestion.
If anybody's not familiar with what Monstrosity is, like one player gets to see a card with this like weird, bizarre monster on it. They get like a minute to look at it. And then they have 20 seconds to verbally explain that to the rest of the players from
not
memory.
Looking at it anymore. They look at it and they stop looking at it.
Yep. So they get to explain it for about 20 seconds from memory. And then the players have 20 seconds to ask them questions about it. And then you have like a minute to draw it, I think is basically the balance. So you get to see a thing, try to remember as many details as you can, explain that to people, have them try to figure out how to draw that. And then you determine who is the closest to the actual drawing. So you end up with Like there were the number of times where one of whoever had seen the card was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. There's a very important detail I completely forgot to mention, and time's up. So now you have no time to draw it." Was repeated. That was the toast.
This is my toast, because Nora was describing it. It was like, okay, it's a toast monster, and I drew the toast, and it's like on a scooter with legs, and then a minute later was like, oh yeah, and it's inside a toaster. So that whole part, everyone was just drawing toast, and it's like, surprise, it's in a toaster. So yeah, it was fun.
Spring Showcase was a lot of fun. It was very long days for our production team, so I want to thank Mark.
I was just going to say that.
And
yes.
for all, and Trooper for all putting it together. They did a fantastic job. Everything went very, very smoothly. And if you want to catch up on what we were just talking about, it's all up on YouTube, basically. So follow the links that we posted in chat. Check out our YouTube channel. You can get everything as it was coming out live, and see what's going to come out for the next quarter-ish, and get an inside look at a number of these games.
They deserve new houses. Gen Con needs to send Marcus
more houses.
more houses.
House.
It is hard to argue with. I will get right on that.
Thank you.
All right. Now that we have gone over, of course, the highlights, our favorites of last week's event. Hey, I hear like there's a big waka 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 sound going on. Something. Emma, does that sound like, think about, does anything come to mind, that something that just goes around eating all the little pellets that it can possibly get into its mouth?
Waka, isn't that like Fozzie from the Muppets?
No, that's a different Waka Waka.
Okay.
We're talking about Pac-Man.
Yes. So we talked a little bit about Asmodee a moment ago, and more news about Asmodee. Asmodee buys the world. Asmodee has acquired Plan B Games, as well as Next Move Games, Pretzel Games, and Eggertspiel, which are all kind of transformed together into some form of conglomeration. This, we talk a lot about Asmodee purchasing different companies buying themselves back from Asmodee, but what's kind of ironic about this news in particular is that Plan B Games was formed in 2017 by Sophie Gravel, known for their Spiel des Jahres winning Azul, Camel Up, Great Western Trail, and of course Century Spice Road. And it was formed when the previous company, F2Z, which also owned Z-Man Games, was sold to Asmodee. So it's kind of like, I'm going to sell my company to you and then make another company. And now that's Plan B. It's the name. Like, that's what the name is. It's like, oh, this is our Plan B, just like morph off. And now this is coming back to you. And we talked about it a little bit before the show, that if you want to make money in the board game business, not making board games as a designer and selling those to publishers, not making board games as a publisher and selling those to the public, but making board game companies and selling those to other board game companies. That's where the money is. It's just what you got to do.
So odds on Plan C games being announced soon?
There was a lot of jokes on Twitter and elsewhere. Plan C games, Final Move games, Three's a Charm games. There's just so many names that you can come up with based on this. Gavel and our team will continue to work under Plan B's new ownership. So they're not leaving the team. They're conglomerating their efforts and becoming this large organization with all of the games. In addition to the games I'd mentioned before, we have Reef, we have Flick 'em Up, Mombasa, and lots of other Euro games. So all those are now under the Asmodee umbrella.
Very, very cool.
And some of the big games that those companies hold, like Plan B, was publishing a number of games from Next Move and Pretzel and Eggertspiel. So, this includes stuff like Azul, Reef, Tukey, Flick 'em Up, Great Western Trail, which is like a modern classic for folks who want like a really deep Euro, Camel Up, Mombasa, lots of other Euro games. So, this affects a number of big games.
And I was actually interviewing Emerson Matsuuchi a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about this. This is also how the Century Spice, Century Gollum thing came about, is like the companies having the rights and then morphing off and having different rights and then like buying them back again and kind of evolving in this like mitosis of games, splitting off and growing and coming back together. So it's pretty fascinating stuff.
No, that is actually pretty cool. I guess am I allowed to say this one comment that chat made in here? The one where need to have like some merchandising, some very unique rounded merchandising that's going to probably come out, eventually.
Would you say that chat is suggesting that Asmodee is the Disney of the board game industry? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. Can we?
I think we just did.
All right, but yeah, that's I mean, that's fun. It's cool to see, like, I guess, people still like they set up these companies, and those companies are then brought into a bigger fold, and then they could branch off and make another one. It's never ending possibilities.
I think the real question, because like Asmodee also just acquired Board Game Arena, and when we talked about that, the real question is like, what is the future that Asmodee has planned for a lot of these products, has planned for these companies? Are they planning on developing them or kind of growing a network, or is Asmodee trying to sell itself? Like, that's been a long rumor, is that the owners of Asmodee want to sell it. So, it's hard to tell what the future effects this will have without knowing what Asmodee has in store.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can speculate all we want, but I think we need to go ahead and drive through and see what's in store for us, for those who, like classic games, Derek, is there any like pull-up deals that we can park into?
Sure. Yeah. So if you go to DriveThruRPG, you don't park in a drive-through though. Anyway,
wait, what do you expect? You kind of park. You temporarily park.
The DriveThruRPG has the DM's Day sale going on for another two days and 16 hours, apparently. So this is a kind of a site-wide sale. It's also affecting the DM's Guild and the Storytellers Vault, and I believe a couple of the other storefronts where you're allowed to kind of create content for specific game lines and stuff like that under license. So it's pretty much across the board. A number of products, have pretty deep discounts of up to 40%, but not everything. So some of the things that are going to be included in the sale are, discounted by like $1 or $2. A lot of it really depends on how recent it is. But some of the ones that really leapt out at me as noteworthy that people might want to check out is Cyberpunk Red. Very timely right now, obviously, if you want to play the tabletop version and maybe ratchet up the cyberpunky aspect of it. There's Irrational Landscapes, which is a big campaign for Delta Green all around the King in Yellow, which looks real fascinating. Can't wait to run that. Cults of the Blood Gods for Vampire the Masquerade, of course. There's also the Wrath and Glory Player's Guide if people want to do an RPG set in Warhammer 40K. The Warhammer Age of Sigmar Fantasy RPG rulebook is also on sale. But Bluebeard's Bride is in the list of stuff that's on sale. That is one of the prettiest games, tabletop RPGs out there. So I highly recommend that people at least check that out. There's a starter set for City of Mist that's a part of the sale. The core boxes for both Darkstone and Planescape are part of the sale. So you got 2 days. Spend the weekend kind of going through, browse through, see if anything that you've been meaning to pick up is getting a pretty nice discount, and pick up the PDF.
Ooh, very, very nice. All right. On more kind of like almost independent one-page RPG kind of news. Little game. Some people might not have heard of this one-page RPG about lasers and feelings. Ooh. Well, let me go ahead and explain this. This is kind of like the quick explanation is the one-page RPG where you're either really good at lasers, meaning like technical things, so you're Spock, versus being really good at empathizing and getting into people's head and talking and conversing, Captain Kirk. Kind of like put in a game. A lot of people, this was created by John Harper. Blade is one of the people that's from like basically made Blades in the Dark, co-author of Aegon. Just basically tweeted March 8th. that this particular game, Lasers and Feelings, it's a game in many communities, people like to hack and break down, but it's like, for now, it hasn't been allowed. Like, people who hack these, like using this particular system, haven't been able to sell it and just have been operating it for free. Now, though, folks who have made their own Laser and Feelings kind of mashup, Frankenstein's monster kind of thing, can now sell it. This being mine, Lasers and Feelings is a pay what you want kind of one pay RPG. So I have a feeling that a lot of creators, this one opens up so a lot of designers can at least get a little bit of income for what they have done, even though it was like very based off of the system. This just is allowed to be sold, and it opens up new avenues for people. If you're not familiar with the system, it's a D6 system where you have to roll for, I believe, if you're wanting to be really good at feelings, you have to roll higher than a certain number. And then if you want to be really good at lasers, you have to roll below a certain number. But if you get your target number, which is like a critical, it's called laser feelings, and you can do a bit of both. I just like the concept laser feelings.
Yeah, I'm excited just because like you have two stats, blank and blank. Is basically a tabletop RPG meme at this point. You may have noticed a number of times we have been running in chat joking about making some new dumb RPG based off of whatever we happen to be talking about at the time. And it's fun. So it's great that the license has been opened up to allow people to just kind of take the joke and run with it as far as they want to go.
But yeah, no, so I mean, I have a quick question for everybody. Are you a laser or are you a feeler? Isabella, starting with you. Are you laser or are you feelers?
Laser.
You're laser?
Just slice. I have no feelings. Get that away from me. No, none of that.
All right. Derek?
Well, I mean, it depends on who you ask. I would say that I am both and contain multitudes, but my wife is 100% convinced that I have no feelings whatsoever and I am maximum laser.
Okay. Emma, what about you?
Feelings.
I think I'm a feelings too. So we're half on the board. You can go work on the lasers and we will feel with our plushies. All right. And our kitties in this corner. But yes, we'll go ahead and go from the nice, this nice cozy feeling that we're feeling, and then go to Grim Derek about Grim Derek news that Grim Derek is very excited about.
This week in Grim Derek news, in a world of movie trailers. So there's a couple different big things coming out from Games Workshop that they've announced recently. First, they've got a new campaign book coming out for 9th edition. This is going to be the first campaign book for 9th edition, the first kind of war zone, battle zone that has a big story that will kind of develop the setting a little bit. And these are usually sprinkled with rules tidbits to either play in that campaign narratively, so you can feel like you're kind of playing in the conflict, or just rules elements you can pick up and use in your own games or in tournaments. There's kind of a wide gamut of stuff that tends to be included. And we've gotten the initial previews for this first campaign book now. It looks like it'll include rules for Adeptus Mechanicus, who are kind of like future cyborg technology people, the Imperial Knights, which are these huge, hulking, giant robots that kind of tower over the battlefield, and everyone's favorite fleshy, big hug guys, the Death Guard. They should have rules for all of that stuff in there. Basically, Typhus is leading an assault on a heavily mechanized world, and everything's going bad. And of course, every different faction is somehow on this planet at the same time, because that's how all of these things go. But I'm really curious how this is going to work, because this is their first campaign book for this edition, and not all the codexes have come out yet. So it's intriguing to see what new toys or what new mechanics they will introduce to the game with this style of play, basically. Games Workshop also announced a new model for one of their classic demon princes. Like, this is Be'lakor, the demon prince who is unaligned, who kind of serves chaos in general, but isn't beholden to any particular weird god. He's got a huge, like 8-pointed star kind of on his chest kind of thing. And this new model is enormous. It looks way bigger than most of the previous Primarch models and stuff like that. Looks like it's maybe Mortarion sized or even bigger. So maybe, like one of the Imperial Knights or something like that. So if you like just huge demon boys towering over your warriors and kind of marching around, then Isabel's all like, oh, well, maybe now I'm interested. Then this is going to be the model you're going to want to check out.
This would make a really good Halloween decoration. I'm just saying, the chain skull stuff, it looks like something I'd pick up at Spirit.
So you joke, but
I'm not joking.
Every year, Games Workshop does actually release a holiday themed miniature. They've had the red Gobbo, which is like a little orc freedom fighter who has a red sack full of grenades that he gives out as gifts to everybody. They've been a bunch of very, very weird models. So yes, I fully support that. And ever since I was a kid, I looked at like, your grandparents and your aunts, they would have that little dioramas of the tiny little houses and the fake snow and everything. They would build their little village.
Moments.
I always want to do one of those, but with Warhammer figures.
Yeah.
So maybe we can find a way to bring a little bit of holiday cheer this year to the grimdark future. But speaking of seeing what the grimdark future has in store, the other bit of news is a whole bunch of kind of new details, including a new trailer for new animation projects that are in the works from Games Workshop. They seem to be doing a really big push for a variety of different animated shorts that are very different in style to showcase different parts of the world. We had a bunch of trailers for a first batch of like Battle Sisters and some Space Marines and stuff like that. And the big news now is twofold. One, they released a trailer for a short that's going to focus on the alien Tau called Exodite, which is interesting. It has a very different mood, I think, than a lot of Space Marine kind of stuff. A little bit less actiony, at least in the trailer. Then the other big news is there's a fan film called Astartes that was incredibly popular, incredibly well received, and now looks like it's an official Games Workshop animation project. It's on their site. The person who created it is now working on future projects for Games Workshop. I was surprised to learn that this isn't the first time that Games Workshop has done that. Apparently, Astartes was made by Siama Peterson, I believe, or Siama Peterson. So they're now working on projects with Games Workshop. But Richard Boylan had worked on some fan films previously, and now they are working on like a very moody, very, very metal, like black and white Blood Angels kind of animation. So Games Workshop seems to be delivering on the promises they gave us, I think, last year about all the animation they're going to put out about the world, which is great because it looks cool. Astartes looks awesome.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, it's really, really neat.
It's so good.
So it's just another way for folks to get into the world and get excited about it, even if they haven't played the miniatures game or whatever else. So seems really neat.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it, this fan film, despite the fact that I'm not into Warhammer. And when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I get it. I get it because I can see the world, because normally when I think of it, I do think of just like a bunch of like 38-year-old guys playing with tiny little figurines. And I'm like, that's not for me.
Not wrong.
But then when I saw the fan films, I was like, oh, I see the world now. And that's really, really cool. And I think what's really great about this is that there have been fan films. I mean, we've had fan films forever. And normally when fan films happen, the major company sort of shuts them down immediately, which is so ridiculous to me. Because there have been fan films that have been like better than like the current things that whatever the company is putting out. And it would make so much more sense for that company to just hire that person and envelop them in and get them to work for them and just suck all of their creative juices out on their own projects.
Do a capitalism on them?
Yes, pull a capitalism. And it would make a lot more sense for them to do that. So it's very interesting that this company is doing, going it that way instead of doing what other companies, I mean, there was a big thing about, there was a Power Rangers fan film that came out a couple of years ago that absolutely slapped. This movie went so hard, and Saban sued them for like 2 years, and so it was like a whole thing. But you know, anyway, I think this is really cool. It didn't get me to play Warhammer, but I get it now. I understand now.
That's step one. Look at you
Yes.
there. That's how the corruption of chaos sows its seeds in you, Isabella.
I don't get that reference, but yep. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we have also more new things for people to look for. Unearthed Arcana has basically released 4 new races from the Feywilds. So these races are going to go ahead and follow the whole Tasha's race rules, which is basically like you can come from anywhere and not be inherently evil, which I approve of. Anywho, on those, if you guys, let's just go ahead and even the language of how race is described is clearly designed to have more of a positive tone. For instance, like, you know, hobgoblins who you like are automatically like, oh, they must be evil. Make no hints of them being villainous at all. No
But
hints.
I did find it interesting. Like, so if you've run hobgoblins as a GM, like
Yes.
they're very much about like working in unison, trained together, backing each other up. Kind of, you know, multiple hobgoblins are a bigger threat than individual hobgoblins, basically. And it was kind of interesting to see it carried through here, where the traits these hobgoblins get is that they're just better at helping their allies and kind of working together.
So we can go ahead. Let me go ahead. That is one of the traits here, but I'll go ahead and wait. Let's go ahead and talk about these. We're going to first start with the fairies. Big surprise. They are classically what you think of fairies. Small, gains of flight speed and hover, and you can go through really tiny spaces and can cast druid craft cantrips and fey fire. There's all little like a table of attributes for your character you could roll. Hobgoblins, like of the Fey, which Derek described as being like basically almost like a bard class. That's like the more people around them, the more bonuses they get and they give to other people. They're very good at using this help action, which is on their bonus action, they could give an advantage to somebody else. If you don't know what the help feature was, is basically you can spend a turn to give somebody an advantage in D&D. And so they just do this as a bonus action. They're just like, boom, you get advantage next time you roll. They also gain a mystical ability to re-roll ability checks or saving throws, and they gain more and more bonuses the more allies that surround them. So that's what was Derek saying. They're beef ups. They're the bards, but they don't have to sing. They're just like, you know what, you did a good job. I'm there for you. I support your endeavor. I want you to be the best person.
You make me want to play a life coach hobgoblin.
I mean, that's essentially what they are. They're like, you know what? I believe you could be the best folks. But another one of the races is the owl folks. They're a medium-sized humanoid, humanish-oid creature that's with flight, proficiency in stealth, and they have magic and super sight like owls do. And they can also cast detect magic as a ritual. They're just like, I could see somebody being a multi-class like rogue with this, but you get the ability to fly. Very cool. What folks are really excited about is the rabbit folk. It's the first race that I at least know of that you can choose between being a small or medium. Small boy, medium. They also have enhanced senses. Think of kind of like a Lola rabbit, Lola bunny, Bugs Bunny kind of creature, but more
and
realistic.
We're not going to get into debates about any Lola bunny. I don't want to hear anything about it. Okay. Keep this PG.
Oh, I forgot that there's a whole thing about Lola. Sorry.
We're going to keep this PG. I'm tired of the discourse. All right.
No, the discourse is a different, humanishoid race that you can play in different rules.
Is it?
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry to disappoint.
But yeah, they also get improved initiative, improved dex saving throws, and they gain this ability to hop, which is basically you take for every 5 feet movement, you could roll a d12. It probably, in my opinion, seems kind of clunky. They'll probably just erase that and try doing something. I mean, it's just my opinion. That you roll a d12 to gain like an extra amount of movage, with that. So yeah, it's just a bunch of interesting races coming out, and just excited to see, are we finally getting a plan, like a travel book for 5th edition for the Feywild focus kind of thing, just handing out, going to the Fey, but it's okay. It's all right. But yes, that was all my geeking dumb of the new Fey races on there. But it's okay. We don't need to talk about that. We need to break down in more magic with Emma, making believe it's such so.
We have details for Time Spiral. Yes, that Time Spiral, Magic's next set, which is also an old set from 2006, coming back in time, through time travel, maybe? I don't know, it's coming back. So this is the first print remaster of cards, which is going to be a little bit different than the cards being re-released, which is something that they've done through several sets, Masters, Ultimate Masters. They've done this a bunch over the last few years. But this one specifically, the Time Spiral Remastered cards are going to showcase old frames, text, and other design quirks that are more similar to the original public release. Obviously, Magic the Gathering card backs have not changed in 25, 30-ish almost years, because you have to be able to play a card from 30 years ago with a card from today, technically. But the frames of the cards, the mana symbols, lots of stuff. The UI, the graphic design has changed a lot over the years. So they're going back. They're taking it back. Not only that, they're going to time shift other cards from other sets to be in the time spiral and future site, and they're just kind of like mashing up a bunch of cards into this Uber set. People are very excited. This is a much beloved set. Not only that, but it has a lot of very powerful cards that people have driven the prices up over time. So presumably these cards are going to be more accessible for people. You might have been thinking about taking a loan out on your house to buy some of these cards. Hopefully now you will not have to do that. Personally, I like it when things evolve, and I believe a lot of the design choices and the graphic updates have been good because they've made the cards more functional over time. But there's a lot of people who have that nostalgia factor and they want it to look like it did back in the good old days, right? So people are excited about this and excited to get these cards. If you are one of those people who's excited about this, just note that lots of people want to get their hands on these. So it looks like some of the quantities are potentially not going to be great. You might have to wait a while to get these because a lot of the local game stores are not going to have as many as they might have wanted. Also, the packs are going to be a little more expensive than regular standard packs of Magic cards. So most people are very excited about this. There's also some grumblings about the potential issues, but cool new stuff coming down the pipeline. So it's exciting.
There's still one more. Oh yes, I hear that we're fighting Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, right, Emma? Are we fighting Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh now?
Yeah,
I feel like it.
I had mentioned this a little bit. We were talking recently about Hasbro has made all of the money, and a lot of that money has come from Magic the Gathering. They've split up into completely reorganized themselves to be around this Magic the Gathering money-making machine. But as I had predicted, a lot of that money right now is coming from Arena. So specifically what has happened is both Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh have beat out Kaldheim, which is the latest standard Magic the Gathering set to have been released. And this is in the physical cards, of course. It's just, as I had predicted, it's really hard to sell packs of standard cards right now because they're not in a lot of the older formats. People are playing Commander and older things, and those ones, Kaldheim, not a lot of the cards are going to go into those older formats. So usually what these standard packs would be used for would be in-person drafts, in-store draft events. People would be playing standard tournaments is a huge source for where these cards are. They're given away as prizes for tournaments. So that's where the churn, that's how these cards and sets typically sell. 90% of that is not happening, right? We haven't been having any in-person physical Magic the Gathering standard events. People are playing on Arena. So yeah, Arena is making more and more and more money. Kaldheim has done very great. I've played it. People are very excited about the set, but they just don't have a ton of reason to buy the physical pack. So it makes a lot of sense that these are not selling that great.
And WotC hasn't announced any plans to change the way they rotate sets out of circulation due to, not being able to hold physical competitive events, right? Like,
Yeah,
I remember like last year they had the reason Time Spiral seems like it's coming around so quickly. No,
Tell
okay.
him.
My
Tell
cat
him.
has opinions. No, the neighbor's the neighbor's cat is out the back door, and my cat is having none of it. But the reason that Time Spiral seems so quick is because there's so many sets they have to go through, and even with the lack of live events, it doesn't seem like WotC has slowed that cycle down at all.
But I mean, you have the competing things. So people have gotten used to this cycle of things, and on Arena, things are moving apace. We're still rotating the sets out. There's still people want new things. I mean, they already started spoiling the Strixhaven cards, right? They already started talking about the houses and things for that. So they just want to keep moving people through and getting them new stuff to buy. So I don't see it changing anytime in the near future.
Well, but we'll just have to see how trends go. Like right now, we still have we're still just, I think Washington announced phase 2 for people to get shots. So we'll see how things change once people are able to get out again from everything. But let's go ahead and have you guys save some money. Buy bundles. Yeah. Bundle Boss with Derek Bundle Boss. There you go.
Well, with that intro, the bundle for this week is from Bundle of Holding. It is another Gumshoe bundle. And if anybody's not familiar, Gumshoe is a system that was designed around playing an investigative game. So the whole core of the idea of the system is that you don't have to roll to get clues or to risk just not getting the information that you need in a scene. If you are an expert in something, if you're a scientist, if you're a forensic investigator, you showing up on a scene is going to give you all the clues tied to being a forensic investigator. You can usually push it a little bit further, maybe to get more information or something like that, but it's trying to take the idea of what does an investigation game look like? Do you need to roll for some of these things, or is the fun putting the clues together as opposed to just finding the clues? And there's been a number of variations of it. And in this bundle, for the starter level, the starter collection at $10, you get Time Watch and one of its first supplements. And Time Watch is a time travel investigative game. You're traveling through time, trying to fix problems, solve things. You're fighting against a bunch of time traveling velociraptor enemies and stuff like that. The usual kind of stuff that comes up with time travel. There's also Lore Finder, which is a supplement that they put out that tries to take some of that same idea or mechanics or approach to investigation and integrates it with Pathfinder First Edition rules. So if you're running a D20 game and you want to borrow some of the same feeling of investigation, you'll be able to do some of that with the Lore Finder book. It also has a quick start rules for Fall of Delta Green and for Cthulhu Confidential. The latter is basically just effectively one-on-one Call of Cthulhu games. And Fall of Delta Green is the Gumshoe version of Delta Green set in the 60s, when Delta Green used to be an official government program, and you play through the sequence of events that caused it to kind of be officially disbanded and just kind of collapse in disgrace, basically. It's very closely tied to the Korean War and stuff like that. It's very closely tied to a lot of themes of, government overreach or aggression and a lot of the themes that were just around the Korean War itself, with the Cthulhu, cosmic horror mythos added on top of that. So for the bonus collection for $26, you get the full core book for the Fall of Delta Green, which again, I cannot recommend Delta Green highly enough. If you like cosmic horror, but don't want to play in the 1920s or early 20th century setting that Call of Cthulhu usually is in, Delta Green is a modern kind of conspiracy, X-Files-y kind of vibe on that you can go with. It's very, very good. And Fall of Delta Green, again, is the 30 years ago, how did this all collapse before the modern setting? You get a bunch more Time Watch adventures, and then you also get another Gumshoe expression in the Gaian Reach, which bills itself as a role-playing game of interstellar vengeance, which should attract some of your attention. It's a space opera, and set in like a Jack Vance setting. And if anybody's familiar with Jack Vance, he wrote a number of the novels that were deeply influential on D&D way back in the day. So you get a little bit of history, you get a little bit of interesting stuff here. If you want to play an investigative game, you want to play a time travel game, then this bundle this week's got you covered. And it is all benefiting the Cochrane Reports, which is a resource page to kind of collect and collate a lot of data around COVID-19 and stuff like that in multiple different languages. So that's what you got.
Very, very cool. And now it's time for Kickstarters, the Kickstarter adventure, Kickstarter led by Kickstarter Queen. There you go. I went 80s with this one.
All right. We time traveled. But we're going to start off with Emma first.
Ooh.
Up first, we have Root, the Marauder expansion with 4 days left, ending Tuesday, March 16th. Expand Root with rats, badgers, and a host of hirelings. The beloved Root by publisher Leader Games, coming back with more stuff, designed by Cole Worley, of course. If you don't know about Root, it's an adorable, vicious, asymmetrical forest combat game. And if you're familiar with Root, obviously, new factions. What's not to love? We got the Keepers in Iron, which is an order of itinerant warriors who have come to the woodlands to recover ancient relics. And claiming to be the true voice of the woodland, we have the Lord of the Hundreds, spreading distrust and division among the inhabitants, inciting torch-wielding mobs to destroy the enemies of their righteous dominion. We have landmarks, too, where you can go and fight control for the cosmopolitan free city of Root, or attempt to secure influence over the black market. And last but not least, we have the Clockwork expansion, which is automating more of the factions. And I think that's the second Clockwork expansion. If you are new to Root and you want to check out the Kickstarter, you can scroll down to the bottom. They have a new to Root chart, which will help players get started because it's gotten a little bit complicated. There's a lot of things that interact and do stuff. However, this Kickstarter does not include the base game. So if you do want to get into Root, you would have to get the base game first, which is it's kind of nice. It is nice when they include the base game, but there's three or four levels, different backing tiers for this one, so they're keeping it super streamlined, super simple. It's made $1 billion because Root is amazing and people love it.
Absolutely, one of my favorite games.
Yeah, a lot of it's got a great balance, I think, of it's got a lot of stuff going on, but once you get into it, it kind of makes sense and it's not as overwhelming as you might think. So yeah, probably if you're in a Root, just check this out because it's just more stuff.
Very cool. Now with also 4 days left, Tuesday, March 16th, Factory Floor. Build your way towards the best factory in town. It's a it's not
Polynomial.
Polynomial, thank you. Tile-laying game where you are some worker placement elements. It's a 1 to 4 player game, and each player has to build a factory combining like product tiles, like quality control, staff room tiles, and everything. It's a really cute, like if you're into games like Kingdom Domino kind of game, except this one's more of like Tetris shaped styles. Players have about 5 days to build on a 2-day work week and try to produce the most stuff over time. It's a fun, simple game that's like, I could see you explaining within 10 minutes of how to play the game and get rocking and rolling. So if you kind of like those puzzle, like builder expansion kind of games, this is the game for you. Factory Floor with 4 days left.
Up next, we have Tiny Turbo Cars, also with 4 days left, ending Tuesday, March 16th. A frantic racing game where you use sliding puzzles. So if you remember those old school toys where you're moving the tiles around, trying to make the pattern, it's kind of like that. And you're using these to program the movements of your remote controlled toy cars. Although I don't think they're actually remote controlled. That's the thematics, not actual control of the cars. I don't know what it is. I just like car games. I think I only have the one. I like car games. I like programming games. So Formula D is a great game. Quirky Circuits kind of has that feel to it as well. I just kind of want more car games. I don't know, racing. It's just really compelling as a mechanic to me. This has a modular track building mechanism, so the races are never the same. You control your car by frantically creating the perfect sequence of commands on your personal sliding puzzle. The quickest programmer will be the first player. So there is a real-time element to it. Which is cool because there's not a timer, but you're racing against other people. Being first player is good, so you're trying to set up your puzzle really fast, but there's obstacles. So it's not real-time, like real-time moving your car along the board, but it's real-time programming. You make your things the fastest. So you want to get the best path. But if you're too slow, then you go behind. But if you're too fast, you're going to run into things and lose your battery power. So there's some cool stuff. The game looks really great, cool pieces, fun art, and mechanics I have not seen before. I would have to play the real time to see exactly what the game is like, but it seems like a really unique way of capturing that frantic feel of a racing game. So seems cool. Tiny Turbo Cars, 4 days left.
Yes. And do you know what I love, you guys?
Hanging out with us?
Demon Voice.
No, Derek. Yes, Em. I love being queer. I love being queer and I love playing games. And guess what goes with being queer and playing games?
Hanging out with us?
Queer dice. That's right, Derek. So with 5 days left, we got roll for, oh my God, what is wrong with me? I had to look at myself to see how many fingers I was holding up. Roll for it dice. Pride dice, which is ending with 5 days left. And this is dice that is pride themed. You've got everything. You've got the rainbows, and you've got, it's gorgeous. You got a lot of different colors. Let everybody know where you stand, where you're at, who you support. For those people that aren't queer, let people know your allyship. These dice are really gorgeous and I really like them. And for every $2,000 that they raise, they will unlock a different set of colors. So they have rainbow, gay pride, asexual. The next one that they have is transgender. I love the transgender ones. I love transgender pride flags. They're gorgeous. They've got non-binary, gender fluid, aromantic. They got all of them. The pansexuals, the gender queers, the lesbianas, the multisexuals, the polysexuals, the intersexuals, the archaeosexuals, and my favorite, the bisexuals. All right. So that's roll for it dice with 5 pride dice with 5 days left. That's it.
Also with 5 days left is Ragnaroks. Now, this I think is really interesting because it is from the designer of Santorini. And if anybody is familiar with that game, it is a, you could argue it's an abstract game, but it's a fairly abstract game with very, very simple rules that can then be deepened and complicated by the addition of like different player powers and stuff like that. There's a lot of interesting layers to that game. And Ragnaroks seems to very much be following in that same mode, where there's a very, very simple core mechanic of you're moving your units around the board. They put down like blocking tiles, and then the game ends when every unit has been blocked off from every other unit, and then you add up to see how many tiles are in different people's territories. It just but then that's the baseline, and then on top of that you have these Norse gods and myths and all these different things that we're going to give you the special powers that significantly complicate everything. So it's cute. It's cute. It seems to have multiple layers, like kind of allow you to complicate it as much as you want. Santorini is a really good game, a really good intro game, like a kind of a staple for a lot of people's libraries. So if you liked Santorini and you want more of that, you want something else to kind of spice up your game night with some new folks, Ragnarok's has 5 days left, and you should check it out. And it is on Tabletop Simulator right now if you actually want to play through it.
I think I'm up next. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about somebody being bullied at Walmart, and I don't know why it's making me laugh so hard.
In the chat, yeah.
I'm sorry. that was not professional. Next is 5 days left. I have another dice that is not exactly the same as the dice I had before, but when you're you can be queer and metal, I think. So this is Demi Lick Dice, hollow metal RPG dice sets, and this is a very metal. Have you ever wanted to roll dice that was just made of the skulls of your enemies? I know I have. I think about it quite a lot. Well, now you can have that dice. Yes, these are dice that are hollow. They're metal. They're made of skulls. I don't know really what else I need to say. Like, it's cool. It's badass. And I also think that this qualifies as part of the quality control that we have here, which is, can the dice be used as weapons? And the answer is yes. Yes, with 5 days left, Demi Lick dice. That's what yes, Demi dice. Hollow metal RPG dice set. 5 days left.
Well, with 6 days left, there is Red Dragon Inn 8 Pub Crawl. So if you want more Red Dragon Inn, here is more Red Dragon Inn. Yep. There's new characters, there's new cards, all that kind of stuff. The big trick this time around is once you have drunk all of the drink cards at one bar, you get up and you move to the next one, and some weird event happens, and you get a whole new deck of drink cards to get through before you can move on to the next one. Like a lot of the other Red Dragon in expansions, this is one of those expand-alones. You can play it by itself. You can combine it with a million of other ones. Like, you may not understand this if you're not familiar with Red Dragon Inn, but it is a force. To give you a sense of context here, you can get $40 for this expansion. You can get a $70 eco tier, which I found was intriguing, of minimal packaging, if you just don't want to waste cardboard, basically. Or you can get a $1,500 tier that has everything Red Dragon ever.
What?
So,
wait, what?
Yep. There is a whole lot of Red Dragon out there. So if you want a card game that is, what do your adventurers, your D&D adventurers do after they get back to the pub with all of their treasure? How do they waste the money quickly enough to need to go back out on another adventure? Red Dragon is the answer to that question, clearly. And I guess they just go from pub to pub to pub, drinking everything in sight that they can see.
1,500 sounds like a lot, even for 8 versions. Okay.
I think there's a lot of promos probably in there. There's a lot of special boxes, maybe. There's a lot of stuff out there for Red Dragon Inn, is what I'll say.
All right.
So you have 6 days left, Thursday, March 18th, and then the pubs will close, I guess, is how we'll say that.
Up next, Dice for All 2, Resin Pride Dice, and Alignment Enamel Pins. With 7 days left, ending Friday, March 19th, our third Dice Kickstarter of the week, and second specifically Pride Dice set, which is awesome. Isabel was remarking earlier how weird / great it is that there's 2 going on at the same time. The dice here is cool because you actually have clear resin dice with the flags as inclusions in them. So I think you can go either way. Like, hey, this is a rainbow dice, but it's also like maybe a little more subtle. Whereas I think the inclusions with the flags, it's more like, hey, this is specifically meant to be a flag for this particular sexuality orientation. And then the pins, which are really great. There's 9 different styles and they come in all the colors for the different flags. So you can pick and choose there. Really high quality enamel pins here and just really cool art to them. So that's about all you need to know about that. If you want more dice and also awesome pins, there's 7 days left to back Dice for All 2, Resin and Pride Dice.
So with 7 days left, we have what will probably be the Kickstarter board game of the week. We have Batman: The Dark Knight Returns. But the really intriguing thing to me is that this is a big game, a bunch of minis, but it's specifically a solo player game. They did fund a 1v1 versus mode for it, but this is attempting to recreate the Dark Knight Returns comic. Old man Batman comes out of retirement, throws out his back, has to run around punching people and stuff like that. Which is great. It's a classic. People love that story. But I was just really surprised that this was specifically a solo game at this scale, because usually we see solo games as much smaller, much cheaper, much more kind of personal things. But the $99 deluxe version seems like specifically designed. It comes in a box to fit on your shelf next to the hardcovers of the comic, so that it looks like you could just add it to your existing comic collection and it would be completely appropriate there. It's a really intriguing kind of way to implement it, I think. You can do individual missions. There's a full campaign. The other funky thing that you don't usually see in a game this size is the board is dry erase. So, like, arguably, this is the biggest, most ambitious single-player roll and write out there. I'm sure that fans of both of those games will tell me how it's neither of those, but those are not usually mechanics you see in a really involved, big production value board game of this size. And I think that is particularly interesting and intriguing. And if that piques your interest, or if you love Batman, you have 7 days left to hop in on that campaign.
Up next, we have Meeples and Monsters with 7 days left, ending Friday, March 19th. A bag-building competitive fantasy adventure with some engine buildiness to it. Defeat the Dark Council to save the city of Rowan. Recruit, upgrade, and battle. This is from AEG. Mostly what I like about this is the upgraded version with the printed meeples. So you have these really cool meeple characters. You have your townsfolk and you're going to upgrade them into champions. You're going to score victory points by defeating monsters, completing quests, and investigating towers. So it seems almost like a little dungeon crawly-esque, but in a city. And yeah, meeples make them more powerful and punch a bunch of monsters with the unique component of the meeples being printed with cool art on them. So that sounds good to you. Just check out Meeples and Monsters with 7 days left.
Also with 7 days left is a game that's the other end of the spectrum of what I've been kind of talking about so far. This is Make a Scene LARP anthologies. And apparently there's been a long-running LARP festival in Minnesota that I'm only just now finding out about. And this collection, or these 2 books, are collections of LARPs that were written for the 2 different years, for 2019, for 2020. I don't know how they operated in 2020, but they had some apparently very interesting games come out of it. So in 2019, the themes were very much about our place in nature and queerness and experiences of oppression. So I love when games can begin to explore those spaces, both to give people a space to express them, but to give other people a space to experience some of those things, or at least begin to learn about them. So I love the idea of LARP games that are specifically tailored, each with different mechanics to really support these themes. So 2019 had those themes, but 2020 seems to be even more focused on gender in general and specific. So the games play around with masculinity, creating family, experiencing or the experiences that genderqueer people go through. So, I just find these to be fascinating. I think that the LARP space is an incredibly interesting space to design in. There's been some amazing stuff that's come out over the past, let's say, 10 years or so that has really broadened it much beyond, I think, what a lot of people's experience is. To then see a collection like this of very narrowly focused, experiential, personal LARPs is incredibly intriguing to me. And anybody who wants to kind of play around with that stuff with their gaming group or with other folks, I really recommend checking it out. So you got 7 days left on that.
All right. And our last Kickstarter of the day is Moonshell with a mermaid game with 9 days left, Sunday, March 21st. It's a strategy puzzle game to 1 to 4 players. You play as mermaids to collect seashells. It's a simple set collection game for 1 to 4 players. Each player takes on a role of a mermaid competing for a variety of shells and shared board games. You can kind of rotate the board as you will towards you. And then each player gets an opportunity to manipulate the positions of the tiles in order to collect all the various different tiles you need. These tiles have different patterns you have to do. And you also have secret scoring goals of versus I need colors of these 3 different types of shells in this particular order and this type of shell. And so it's got a bunch of it's like a smart strategy game that packs a lot of depth. The reason why I liked it is because they have all different types of mermaids. And it's not just the one mermaid that is Ariel. So I was like, yay, different types of mermaids. I like it. And it's just something that is a simple set of rules, easy to get to learn. And that is, again, Moonshell, a mermaid game with 9 days left. All right, folks, that, of course, marks the end of our Table Takes session. But hey, wait, don't go away, because we have a whole slew of shows here on Gen Con TV. So let me go ahead and run through this first. Streaming schedule starting this Monday, and every Monday, March 15th to April 5th at 4 p.m. Pacific, there will be a Villainous sponsored by Ravensburg starting this upcoming Monday. So this is Pacific time, Monday, 4 to 6 p.m. And then at 6 p.m., board games with the brothers Murph. Wednesday, of course, we have at 1:30 p.m. This game gets dicey. Friday, you can join us and our beautiful faces, giving you all the tabletop RPG drama news, upcoming events here at Table Takes at 2 p.m. And remember, folks, to don't forget to follow, subscribe, hit that like button, put a comment down. Not only are we available here on Twitch, but also if you wait 24 hours, our episodes that you see here will be available on YouTube. And if you want to connect with other Gen Con fans, Gen Conians, one day I'll stick. Check out our official Discord. I wanted to go ahead and thank, of course, Isabella, Emma, and Derek for joining us this evening. And of course, you all beautiful people in chat. And also love to Marcus as well behind the scenes. And thank you all. You have a wonderful evening. Go out, experience the sun if you happen to be in Seattle, and hydrate.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye.